Looks like we may have a battle for the ages here in Red Sox spring training late, but who is going to come out on top as the 2023 Red Sox Utility Man? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and for a while it was sort of assumed that Yu Chang would be the utility man for the Boston Red Sox going into the 2023 season. This had a lot to do with him getting a major league contract, and honestly, there not being a ton of other options available, but that's not really the case anymore. Yesterday, Ian Brown tweeted out this tweet that indicated that the Red Sox are looking at almost a head-to-head type battle between Yu Chang and Bobby Dalbec as to who could be the starting utility man for this Red Sox team going into the 2023 season. So what we're going to do in today's video is we are going to put these two head to head, a battle of statistics to see who the Red Sox should put on their bench as a utility man to begin the 2023 season, and if there is even a clear winner. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also make sure you guys hit the like button as well. And on top of that, I just want to remind you that we are going to be live tomorrow night, Wednesday, at 7 p.m. Eastern time on this channel. It's a whole opening day preview because, believe it or not, next Thursday is Red Sox opening day. So we're going to be breaking down what could be going on opening day, looking at this roster, breaking this down, all sorts of great stuff, really anything you guys want to talk about. So again, that is going to be Wednesday, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, live on this channel. Anyways, thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's dive into our battle of statistics here a little bit, starting with defensive metrics. And Yu Chang should probably take this one pretty easily, but we're going to do our comparisons just to be sure. Starting with D-WAR, or defensive WAR. For those of you who do not know, WAR is wins above replacement. And for Bobby Dalbec over his career, he has a negative 2.8 defensive WAR. If your dead average in terms of WAR is 0, this means Bobby Dalbec over his career has been well below average when it comes to his defense, which makes a ton of sense, right? If you just do the eye test on Bobby Dalbec defensively at first base, it's not very good. But there is some bright side with Bobby Dalbec's defense, and it's basically any position outside of first base, and we'll get into that in a second as to why that's the case. But before we do that, let's take a look at Yu Chang's defensive WAR. And over Yu Chang's 4 seasons in Major League Baseball, Yu Chang has a positive WAR at 0.7. It's not exactly anything crazy. In fact, it's pretty close to being a dead average replacement level player, but it is still above average and is definitely better than what Bobby Dalbec has done over his 3 seasons defensively. So this round, in terms of defensive WAR, the win is going to have to go to Yu Chang. Now let's take a look at some other defensive metrics. The next one up is defensive runs saved. Bobby Dalbec over his 3 seasons in Major League Baseball has a cumulative total of negative 16 defensive runs saved. Again, not very good. In fact, pretty terrible. If you think about the average in Major League Baseball in terms of defensive runs saved being 0, Bobby Dalbec has been well below defensively in terms of the average player in baseball. But if you break it down a little bit further, there may be a bit of a silver lining in Bobby Dalbec's statistics. Negative 13 of those negative 16 defensive runs came at the first base position. Basically anywhere outside of first base for Bobby Dalbec, he's pretty close to league average. He's still a bit below league average with about negative 3 everywhere else, but he is truly bad at first base, which I guess is a silver lining. It means that if he is going to be in a utility role, he may not be at first base as often, and he may look a little bit better defensively. Now, Yu Chang is much better in defensive runs saved than Bobby Dalbec, which pretty much correlates with what defensive WAR was telling us. Yu Chang has 5 defensive runs saved throughout his 4 seasons in Major League Baseball. Now, those 5 defensive runs saved include time basically everywhere in the infield. He's played third base, shortstop, second base, and first base for 4 different teams over 4 different seasons, and he's been average or above average at all of them, cumulatively coming together for 5 defensive runs saved, making him a pretty above average defender in terms of that metric. So again, if we're talking about just defensive runs saved as a whole, Yu Chang wins this one pretty easily. And the last metric we're going to look at in terms of defense is a player's outs above average. Bobby Dalbec was well below the league average in outs above average, finishing in the 38th percentile on defense last year, while Yu Chang was definitely well above average. He finished in 2022 in the 78th percentile for outs above average, which again gives Yu Chang a very clear advantage here defensively. So all in all, in the defensive metric category, Yu Chang takes this category extremely easily, and it is definitely one that's really not even close. Again, outside of first base, Bobby Dalbec, not terrible, but at first base, it really brought his numbers down. Now let's move on to the speed category of our head-to-head matchup here. The speed category of this head-to-head matchup should be pretty easy. There's really not a ton to compare in this one, but we're going to do it just to be sure we've covered all our bases here. In terms of stolen bases for both of these guys, Bobby Dalbec has 5 successful stolen bases in his 3-year career. Definitely nothing impressive, definitely not a speedster type player, but somehow it's enough to get past Yu Chang, because Yu Chang only has a singular stolen base over his 4-year career. That's right, he's only successfully stolen 1 base over his 4-year career. So neither of them very impressive stolen base numbers, but hey, if we're doing matchups head to head, Bobby Dalbec's got to take this one. The next thing we're going to measure is sprint speed, and Bobby Dalbec was in the 76th percentile for sprint speed in all of Major League Baseball last year, which is fairly impressive. It means he was about 26% faster average wise than the average player in baseball. And Yu Chang was in the 80th percentile for sprint speed in Major League Baseball, again making him about 30% faster than the average player in baseball. So this round is pretty much a wash. We're going to give 1 point to each side, meaning that at the end of round 2 here, the speed category, we are 2 points Yu Chang, 1 point Bobby Dalbec. Now let's move on to our last and probably biggest category in this video, and that is going to be the hitting side of things. Now let's take a look at some offensive metrics, see if there's a clear winner there. The first thing we're going to look at is a player's slash line, which is basically your average, your on-base percentage, and your slugging. For Bobby Dalbec, over his 3-year Major League career, he has a 232 average with a 298 on-base percentage and a 456 slug, which equates to a 101 OPS plus, meaning that he was just 1% more productive than the average player in baseball. Compare that to Yu Chang's 4-year career at the Major League level, where he has just a 213 average, a 279 on base percentage, and a 360 slug with a 76 OPS plus. So Bobby Dalbec very easily takes this category, right? He was better across the board in terms of his slash line, and he was definitely better in his OPS plus, where he was 1% above, while Yu Chang was 24% below league average production. Bobby Dalbec wins the slash line category pretty easily. Moving on to the offensive WAR category, or the WAR category, over his 3 seasons in Major League Baseball, Bobby Dalbec has a 1.80 WAR, which isn't exactly fantastic, right? He's not going to be in line for a silver slugger anytime soon, but it is above league average, while Yu Chang is sitting at negative 0.1 WAR, which isn't terrible. He's not an absolutely abysmal player at the plate, but it's certainly not great either. He's below dead average player in Major League Baseball. So again, WAR category is going to Bobby Dalbec. Now let's take a look at their power numbers, because just comparing home runs isn't going to be an entirely fair battle, considering Bobby Dalbec over his 3-year career has about 45 plus home runs, while Yu Chang has about 13 or 14 throughout his 4 years. So what we're going to look at is max exit velo from last year. How hard was their hardest hit ball? And for Bobby Dalbec, he was in the 96th percentile for max exit velo, meaning that his hardest hit ball last year was better than 96% of Major League Baseball. It was hit harder than 96% of Major League Baseball. Yu Chang wasn't too shabby either. His hardest hit ball, his max exit velo, was in the 76th percentile, meaning his hardest hit ball was harder hit than 76% of Major League players, which again is not bad at all. But when you compare the two, the clear winner here is Bobby Dalbec. And for the hitting category, Bobby Dalbec clean sweeped this one. He has an official point on the board, bringing our total at the end of round 3 to 2 points Bob and 2 points Yu Chang. Let's talk about what they've been doing lately. During the 2023 preseason, Bobby Dalbec has spent it working on his craft with the Boston Red Sox in spring training, and he's actually had a really great spring training. He normally does have good spring trainings, but this one's been particularly good. In spring training so far, Bobby Dalbec has an average of 306 with a 390 on base percentage and a 611 slug. He also has 1 home run, 2 triples, and 4 doubles. Yu Chang, on the other hand, was not with the Red Sox so far in spring training. He was representing his country in the WBC, and boy did he have a good World Baseball Classic, because in his time in the WBC, Yu Chang hit for an average of 438 with a 500 on base percentage and a 647 slug. He also had 2 home runs, a double, and 4 RBIs. All of those statistics combined were enough to win him the MVP for his pool in the qualifying round. So Yu Chang definitely is having a more impressive preseason than Bobby Dalbec, but both of these guys are having really good showings in the preseason, so it's kind of hard for me to award a singular award to each of them. I think if I had to choose in terms of points to one side or the other, it would be Yu Chang, but it's pretty close in terms of which preseason was more valuable into who's going to be good for this opening day utility man role. And that's the problem that I've come up with. After looking at all these statistics, Yu Chang is better defensively, but Bobby Dalbec's better offensively, and it's kind of dead even, right? If we take a look at our rounds here, they end up with 2 points each, which is kind of a problem because there's no clear winner. So for the Red Sox, this could be a really tough decision. Do they go with the defensive ability of Yu Chang or the offensive potential of Bobby Dalbec? They could go either way, and it really comes down to which one they value more. In my opinion, if I was the one put in charge of deciding who was going to be on the opening day roster, I think I would go with Bobby Dalbec. Like we mentioned, he definitely has the higher potential offensively, and even if he doesn't reach that full potential, he still will probably be better offensively than Yu Chang will be over the course of a 162 game season. And defensively, like we mentioned, if Bobby Dalbec's not at first base, he's really not that bad of a defender. Looking at his defensive run saved, only -3 of those came from not being at first base. So in my opinion, as long as you avoid Bobby Dalbec at first base for the most part, right, every once in a while at first base isn't a bad thing, he could be fairly valuable as a utility man on this Red Sox team. But that's just my opinion. So if you were put in charge of making this decision after looking at this head-to-head matchup, this head-to-head battle, which one are you picking? Do you pick Yu Chang as the utility man for this Red Sox team, or do you pick Bobby Dalbec? Let me know why you choose that in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit that like button as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Don't forget about our live stream tomorrow night, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on this channel, and I will see you in the red seat.